So hi, Francesco. I'm pronouncing your name right.
Yes, you
Okay,
are, and it's
excellent.
Italian, so you have to sing it.
Francesco.
Exactly, yes.
Hi. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. I Please, for everybody watching, could you introduce yourself?
So I'm Francesco. I'm the founder, technical director of Airlink Solutions. I think we've been running events since 2008. So our very first event we ran in London, right when the financial markets were crashing all around us, and it's been a really really interesting experience. We now run major events, in the US and across Europe. So it's Codebeam conferences. We run ElixirConf EU. We run Code Mesh as well as the Rabbit Summit. So quite a few conferences. So yeah,
Wow.
as you can imagine, it became very very interesting. I think when COVID hit, we did a lot of in-person training. So we ended up getting we ended up having to pivot that part of the business pretty much overnight. So the trainer and I, we basically locked ourselves up into two rooms, and whilst doing so, tested out various platforms and did it that way. Yeah, tested out various platforms and ended up pivoting both training and conferences online. I think we ran our first conference in early March.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious.
Sorry, I'm late. Sorry, guys.
No problem, John. Francesco was just introducing himself. If you'd like to introduce yourself too, that'd be great.
Yeah. So basically, I currently head up the conference team, particularly the sales efforts for our Codebeam events, and we have other events: Lamp Days, ElixirConf, Code Mesh, and Rabbit MQ Summit, and basically, usually these are in-person events, and of course, Francesco said we had to move virtually very quickly in April last year. We only wish we'd found Toucan earlier, because it was such a unbelievable success last time we used it for Toucan in America. We've been trying to find a platform which would allow us to mingle in a really natural way, and we've been playing with we use Hoover. So Hoover is a very good, very robust virtual platform. It's a conference app. Essentially, it was just developed quite a few years ago as a conference app, and we've used it many times. Mm-hmm. And they've integrated a virtual element onto the desktop platform, and it allows you to integrate Zoom meetings, which is great. And it's very reliable. It's got a good area for sponsors and exhibitors to pitch up virtually, but it just doesn't have that networking facility.
Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest reasons we do events is community, to build community, to gather community. It's an opportunity for everyone to meet old friends and make new ones.
Yeah.
And the most important element not the most important, but one of the key kind of pillars is the holding track. And it was fine with the training because we had very small training courses, instructor led, and no recording. So we are actually able, we were in those 2 weeks in March able to create that interaction with our training courses. Mm. But we were really missing that in our events where we had 30, 40, 50 people, maybe all in a Zoom room, and okay, Zoom has breakout rooms, but it still wasn't the same. And this was the last bit of the puzzle, which we were looking for.
Yeah.
And Yeah, and I think there are other similar platforms, but no one made it as seamless as Toucan did. So
Thank
it was
you.
a massive hit.
Thank you. I'm curious, how did you find Toucan initially?
But just Andre, he approached Francesco, and Andre used to work at 8x8.
Yeah.
And he's obviously reached out to his network. And Francesco said, "Oh, you might want to check this out." And we nearly didn't. This is the thing. We were just. It was 2 weeks before the conference. We were really up to our eyes. I thought, and I literally get inundated with virtual platforms. A new virtual platform every week, and you just don't have time to look at all of them. And everyone wants to do a demo. And we thought, well, we know Andre, and he's a really nice guy. And he's really helped us out before, and 8x8 were a big sponsor with us before. And I thought, let's just have a quick half an hour. And as soon as he presented it, I thought, oh my God, this is fantastic. This is exactly what we need. We're desperate to have this mingling coffee area to do something. And because Hoover have just introduced something, but it's a speed networking opportunity. You can sit down at a table for 5 or 10 minutes, and then they kick you off and randomly stick you in with another table. And we just don't. I mean, for our community, they do like to come together, and they do know each other really well, and they like to sit down with people. Yeah.
And, we want to catch up with old friends, with customers, with colleagues, and we're not. And it's as well as meet new people. So it was ideal, and loved the little heart function.
So do I. It's my favorite.
We were basically drowning some of the major contributors with hearts. It was. People were just having fun, and people were just having fun and enjoying it. I think people in Europe were sipping their beers to the shock of those in the States, which had just woken up and were sipping their coffee. But again, it's.
If you drink it out of a mug, it all looks the same.
Exactly. But work that one out, yeah. There's a lot of tea drinking there, John. I like a tea. Yeah.
You don't know.
It's literally the good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and
Could you describe your event a little bit more, like the entire conference, not play by play, but I'm curious about the flow.
So, we've been experimenting with a lot of different formats, and I think it was the last event where what we did is, to avoid Zoom fatigue, it was broken up into 3 half days. And we have an opening and a closing kind of session. I wouldn't call it, not always a keynote, but in some cases we had talks. So we had keynote talks. We had panels as well as fireside chats. So Q&A interview sessions where, even with the panel, where we tried to create as much interaction as possible with the audience. And in many cases, with the Q&As and the fireside chats, the talks themselves are usually 20 minutes, after which we then encourage, probably a 10-minute Q&A session as a result of it. And so again, to create interaction with attendees and the speakers. We have speakers introduce other speakers. So to almost kind of create this casual conversation which happens when you've got other speakers sitting in the front row in the conference, and they come in and ask questions during your talk and after your talk, and strike up this conversation which we want everyone to listen to. And we've had a live podcast. We close the conference with a live podcast where we have which again created a lot of interaction, and these are very, very, very popular podcasts. So I think most of the attendees knew and listened to them regularly, but all of a sudden it was there on camera. And so it was, went beyond just listening to them. They could see them and even interact with them and ask questions through the app. we had a lot of kind of Ask Me Anything sessions where people could go in and meet contributors to the most popular open source projects, and also meet the language inventors, meet the contributors to both Erlang and Elixir.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at the core teams, and then we had 3 parallel tracks in between these opening and closing sessions, and in these 3 parallel tracks, 2 were kind of regular talk with a substantial part being a Q&A. About 33% of that talk we asked attendees to reserve as a Q&A. And the middle session was just fireside chats. So conversation, prepared, curated conversations, which had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then, we wrapped up every evening with, and during the breaks, with the Toucan lounge, basically. And, so it was kind of, the highlight, of the evening where everyone finally got to mingle, and
That's excellent. You mentioned that you, at least John, have seen a ton of different virtual solutions. Why is Toucan different in your perspective, from your experience? What makes it stand out?
For all the other platforms that we've looked at, they just don't have that way to randomly just network. I haven't seen anything that's so natural as this. A lot of them are built around very much sort of a B2B model, whereas our events are very much community-based, and the mingling and networking is really, really important. I can see where Toucan can lend itself to being more commercially viable in terms of sponsorship. And then we had a couple of sponsors ask us to create bubbles for them, which we moved away. I did it the first time, and then just only a few people were jumping into the sponsors bubbles, and it wasn't something that we offered them to begin with, but it could lend itself to that really, really well. But it's just the whole very relaxed, random way that you can meet with people. And you just don't get that in other models. There was one we tried. Was it Hublio? No, it's not Hublio. There's a couple of startups from India which we've been trying, and one had a similar tables we could sit down at, but it was very, very limited. And
I mean, it's decluttered. I think it was so decluttered. It's simple and intuitive, and there's no clutter around it. I think there were a lot of these other apps we looked at. You had to use them as a conference platform. So you had to use their events and their calendar, and you had to use their There was nothing you could. You couldn't just lift out the networking element of it, and I think that's also what sold it to John and the team.
I'm curious what your attendees, your guests at the conference, thought about it.
I've actually asked this very question. I got some feedback which I can just share.
Perfect.
I'll take the first quote, and then John can take the second. But one attendee, and again, we didn't ask attendees any specific question, but this is just free text which they ended in, and once I knew the Toucan Lounge was also a good replacement for the traditional hallway track.
Great.
Yeah, really enjoyed the format. Half day was good. The Toucan Lounge was interesting and fun. The Toucan meetings were awesome. I felt that I was in a real conference, in-person conference.
Yeah, I love the Toucan app. Yeah, I love the Toucan app. Any electronic solution I've used during the pandemic, it came closest to making it feel like I was in the same room with other actual people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's high praise. Thank you.
And Toucan rocks, basically.
Yeah. So someone just the conference was well run and absolutely worth the time. I don't often say that, and Toucan rocks, So these were basically in the free text. We didn't ask them to specifically mention Toucan, but many did, and so it was their highlight.
And people who had never come across it before, literally on the first day, we posted out. We're using the Toucan event platform for mingling and coffee breaks. So here's the link. Please join us. Not knowing whether people were going to come join us immediately, and first sort of tentative few minutes, there was one or two people joining us, and then suddenly you kept getting all the ding, 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 and people coming in. You're thinking, oh wow, this is really working, and people then working out how to come together. That's fantastic. I can't tell you how it really worked with our conference and worked really well with our community.
Wow.
And we're looking forward to the next one, in May.
So are we. That's going to be great.
I can also say I think a lot of that, not a lot of the attendees, but many of the attendees run their own meetups, and I know that the week after they swapped Zoom for actually Toucan in one of these virtual meetups.
Wow.
So and we're seeing and so we've actually, it's been great being part of the spreading of the adoption of the platform.
That's wonderful. I'd love to hear, just from a host perspective, how was the experience for you compared to what you're used to?
Oh, it's very easy to navigate, extremely easy to set up. I mean, the time, I think there's no negative remarks. I mean, it's just, I think the time limit, it's a 2-hour limit, but I can understand why you do that. I think it's 16 maximum per table, I mean, which is quite good, and perhaps that does create the demand for people wanting to join a particular group. So there's nothing really. I can't say anything really. It's all really, really easy to set up and bring them. The only thing was the time zones. You have to be really careful to make sure you set the correct time zone. Particularly when we're over here, we're setting up an event in the US, and it automatically defaults to GMT over here. And I had to I had to reset it a number of times, thinking, oh, it's the wrong time. People are really not going to join it. So.
The only option is also allowing options to go in and name their bubbles. Once someone goes in and creates a bubble, allowing others to join, allow people to name it, so people know what's being discussed there.
Yeah,
and I think that will increase. Again, in our case, I mean, most people knew everyone else, and we very quickly created a table, so it wasn't a problem, but. If you want to
the other thing is, of course, is also obviously you have it with Zoom. Zoom farming is quite has been quite prolific in the particular lockdown, and it's fairly easy for people. All they need to do is share the link. We know everyone who's coming to our conference. We put the link on the conference schedule. We know who's attending. But if they just randomly, they can just share it with someone else, and they can easily just join. It could be some big strangers from outside our community. So there is always a risk. We've been Zoom bombed once, and that wasn't a nice experience. And so there is this moderating issue, which I would just say that is something that needs to be looked at, given there's some way of checking the content, because people can then share their screens, they can then post whatever they like within their bubble. And there's no way of actually controlling that. So and as you go more out, and as you scale up, and more people are going to use that, you've obviously think of ways to control that.
Yeah, at the moment, we have the ability to, the host can remove anybody who's being disruptive, and we're also coming out with some added security features just in the next couple of days. So that'll be coming soon, and we completely understand that. A last question that I have for you, because I know, Francesco, you have a hard stop, is do you have any advice for first-time hosts or first-time attendees on Toucan?
It's difficult. I mean, I'd say it's so easy for me. It's so easy to set up. I mean, I can't see any. We had one guy who's trying to set a meeting up, and he just asked, which room do I set up? Because you've got the different things. Is it a conference? Is it a virtual meetup? Is it a party? Is it a... And I think he thought if he selected a different one, it would have a different theme. So perhaps a bit of, he might have thought if it's a conference, it's a bit more, it's like it may be more of a B2B theme. If it's a party, there could be some party blooms or something hanging around. I don't know. I don't know what he thought. I said it's just a title. That's all it is. So perhaps just a description, just to say what this will actually do. Or perhaps even if you do select a conference, it does perhaps change the background slightly differently, or make it a bit more of a, if you... At the moment, we love it. I mean, just keep doing what we're doing. We love it, and
thank you.
Can't wait to use it again. Really can't wait to use it. And what I will do is also, because I said to Andre as part of the deal, because you've been such great support, and this has really helped us out, we made you sponsors of the event, and there was a sponsor report. Now, the report we get back from Hoover, now this is something you should think about in the future. If you do bring in sponsors and commercial things and exhibitors spaces, the one thing Hoover do really well is they provide all the organisers with an event report, and I'll send a copy to you, and something you can think about for the future. And it's very, very comprehensive. It tells the best speaker, the best etc., the best talk, and also gives you some sponsorship feedback as to how many impressions you got, how many people liked it.
Yeah.
And you did get quite a few impressions, and you did get quite a few likes. A lot of people visited your website off the back of it, so I'll share that with you. And we'll do the same for Coping Europe. We'll add you as a sponsor, and hopefully you can try and join some of the talks as well. And I know Andre said I'm not allowed to use Erlang, and perhaps we could try and convince you guys in the future to think about a big language. Some kind of integration. Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, Francesco.
From my end, I was there as an attendee, and the only advice is go in there, be yourself, and have a good time and network and meet old friends and make new ones. It's exactly what I did, and it worked wonders.
That's wonderful to hear. That's exactly what we built Toucan for. So I'm really glad that it helped you guys. And I'm really excited for your upcoming event. I think that it's going to be fantastic, especially because there are new things.
Is there plans for an app? So something
Eventually, it is on our product roadmap.
Cool, because we have we're planning another event in September, which is going to be, as we move out of lockdown, more events are going to move into hybrid, and we are planning a hybrid event, and we were planning to include Toucan, because obviously there's going to be a lot of people watching the talks virtually. They need their own area to come together. Yeah. And I also thought, so if there are people on the day at the event, if they have an app, they can access, and so everything's integrated. It would be great.
Yeah, definitely thinking about that. So just aware that, Francesco, you have to leave. Thank you both so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Wonderful to meet you.
Yeah, it's so good. It was so good, and
Thank you.
Come at a better time, and I can't thank Andre enough. And we needed. I honestly nearly said, we'd have to try and put this off until after the event, and I'm so glad we managed to find time. It's brilliant. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we have been telling everybody about this. We've told, we're trying to host our own internal meetings using it. I'm even telling my kids to use it at college and school, because it's such a great way for them to come together with their friends rather than Zoom call. Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. That's as a college student, that's one of the initial reasons why we decided to build Toucan. It gets pretty lonely out there, and we need a way to connect naturally.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Perfect. Well, good luck. I mean, as I say, we'll add you as a sponsor, and I'll send Andre some tickets to come along to the event, and they can come and check it out and see how we're using it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It really means a lot.
No, thank you.
Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, and you. Take care. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Bye.